everybody. Sorry about that little technical glitch there. My name's Jennifer. I'm the Knowledge Programming Lead here at City of Melbourne, and very pleased to have you all here today. I joined the Smart City office in mid-February this year, so 12 weeks out from Knowledge Week 2019. So I'm really looking forward to being part of Knowledge Week from the beginning of the cycle and working with everybody across the knowledge sector in Melbourne to deliver another terrific Knowledge Week in 2020. Just before we begin, just a few housekeeping things. If you need to go to the bathroom during the presentation, please see one of our team members wearing a lanyard and they'll show you where the bathrooms are, and if in the unlikely event of an emergency, the exit is over here. And I would also like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we're gathered today, the Kulin Nation, particularly the Bunurong and the Woiwurrung peoples, and to pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Also, as part of the housekeeping today, we're doing an audio recording and a Zoom recording facing this way, so none of you will be identified, but if you have any concerns or questions about that, please again see one of our team members. And that will be available on our Knowledge Melbourne YouTube channel early next week, so if there's anyone who can't be here today, please feel free to pass that on to them. So we're going to do a presentation for about 35-40 minutes, and then there'll be a question and answer session at the end. So, and the Zoom recording will only go for 40 minutes, so we can try and do that, and then we'll do the questions afterwards. I'd also just like to get a quick sense of who's in the room today. I can see some familiar faces, but just hands up who's been involved in a Knowledge Week in the past. Great. Okay, so, and the rest of you look like new people. Wonderful. So the purpose of today's meeting is to support you in being able to put great expressions of interest in to help us program Melbourne Knowledge Week for 2020. So Knowledge Week is a festival of ideas. We invite the people of Melbourne to come together to ideate a shared future. It is a platform for the knowledge sector, and it has grown from a very actually grew from a website, which was a collation of ideas, then became more of a knowledge sector inward focused event working with academia and government and industry, and then in the most recent years it's grown out to engage the community of Melbourne and work towards having a more informed citizenry about what our future in this city will look like. So part of that is where you all come in. We've grown from a festival that was predominantly like an aggregator festival where it was predominantly expressions of interest and there was very little curated content in there. As the event has grown, we have also programmed our own events within Knowledge Week. So it's around a 60-40 split. Part of it is what we as council and as Knowledge Week feel are great examples to showcase, and part of it is it comes from what the sector is working on and interested in and trying to achieve. But before we move on, I would also just like to take a moment to introduce our team. I'm Jen. We have Georgia, our programming coordinator, Emma Forster, who's our acting content coordinator, Crystal Perella, our hub manager, and Kate McKenzie, our program officer, and Blair is unfortunately not well today, so at some point you will get to meet the lovely Blair. So with now Melbourne Knowledge Week, we are moving into the second year of a 3-year council endorsed growth plan, which really looks to elevate the impact, reach and scale of the event. So those of you who've been involved in the past will know that the event has gone from strength to strength in terms of attendance and media interest and general community engagement. Council is really looking to supercharge that growth, and by 2021 we're looking at attracting 40,000 live attendances, substantially increase website visitation, economic impact and our publicity value, and also to engage with more of not just Melburnians but people who visit Melbourne as a city So it's a pretty ambitious growth plan, and it's one that we're looking forward to delivering in partnership with our event partners. This is a little great snapshot of the 2019 festival. The central theme of the festival was "I'm just one person, how can my choices matter?" And it sort of captured the apathy of so what and the optimism of what if. We had 6 very broad festival themes there that you can see, and we'll talk about how the themes are arrived at and what they reflect a little bit later on. And you can see some great highlight stats on the side here. Attendance was up 31%. The number of events, the event itself grew by 24%, and we had a substantial increase in our media reach as well. So not only are we doing more, but we're telling more people about it and bringing more people in, which is a great way to showcase the achievements and the aspirations of the knowledge sector. This is a snapshot of our overall audience. As you can see, it's quite well spread across age groups, predominantly female audience, and a good mix of professional and scientific industry, education training, and info services and telecoms. And we're finding that about 25% come from within the City of Melbourne, and 75% are coming from outside the local government area into Knowledge Week to experience the events. So all of this information will be available online afterwards, so don't feel that you have to take too many notes now. And I am going to pass over now to our programming team, to Georgia and Kate, to talk a little bit more about why you should participate.
Hi everyone, lovely to see you all here. I'm Georgia, this is Kate. Hi. And we'll talk a little bit about why participate, but also what we do as a festival, what you'll be doing as event partners, and how we program the festival.
All right, to start off, I'll let you know what our job is. So our job is to curate that 1 week festival of ideas in May. Next year it's going to be the 11th to the 17th of May 2020. We commission a fit out of the meat market in North Melbourne with a design firm to create a special place where everyone can come and collaborate at Melbourne Knowledge Week. We build a website and we host all of your events on there, so it's searchable and shareable. And we market the festival as a whole with an external PR marketing company. We also assist you with your carbon tracking and reduction process, which we'll speak to a little bit more later on. And now what you guys do. So you guys will program your events. So that means taking care of all the logistics, the booking of the spaces and speakers. You'll be marketing your event and will require you to collect some information about your event, such as the carbon emissions data, your audience attendance and things like that, to report back to us afterwards. You'll need to complete some forms such as a risk assessment, and you'll need to do a bit of planning beforehand how you're going to resource your event.
We also wanted to bring up these programming principles. So as Jen's mentioned, and as we'll talk a little bit more about in a moment, the themes change from year to year, but we do have 4 sort of pillars of the festival that remain the same and are sort of the heart and soul of the festival. The first one is positivity. We're not naive, we know that there are challenges in the future, but we are looking at positivity and looking at ways that people are encountering those challenges and trying to solve them or trying to understand them. We're about discovery, so we understand that our audience come to our festival with knowledges of their own, and we're really interested in not only putting together really great events, but also putting together a really great space where people can discover one another's ideas and discover new knowledge for themselves. Sort of related to that is interactivity. We don't want to just tell people, we don't want to give them sort of information they could find online. We want to really make it an experience that people are going to have an embodied learning experience at our festival. And we're also very interested in legacy, which goes 2 ways. So we're interested in the legacy that we build on as we present our event and the history of this country and of where we are here in Melbourne. And we're also interested in the legacy that we leave behind. You know, it's only a 1 week festival, and sometimes these things can be a bit of a flash in the pan. So we're really interested in figuring out how the conversations that we begin in Melbourne Knowledge Week can continue on after the festival. In terms of themes and programming, as you saw on one of the previous slides, some past themes have included food, city shaping, startups, futurism, and some potential themes for this year would include health and wellbeing, sustainability, transport, democracy, First Nations knowledge, water, tech ethics. There's really a lot of different things we're interested in, but ultimately we don't set these themes in stone until after we've got the expressions of interest, because the main body of the program is you and what you propose, and we're interested to see what you're thinking about and what you think the challenges that we're facing or the issues that you're interested in are, and that guides us in our programming.
So the most important part of that is that we set the spaces, we set the themes and create a model for you guys to really come to us and let us know what knowledge is out there, what your sector is thinking about. You bring the specialty knowledge, so it's about us providing that larger space and then you funneling that down into something that can be an event. So that's working through that process, and we're here to help you do that.
All right, I'm going to hand over to the lovely Emma Forster now to talk about the application process.
Cool. Thank you. Awesome. All right, so 4 simple steps or simple points here. Attend an info session. So well done, congrats, you've made it. As you've heard before, this will be available. We will send the slides to you as well as the link to the YouTube clip that we'll have online, so you can watch it again, relive the magic and share it around. Remember, write the dates down. They are online and on our website, but we're running the festival from Monday the 11th of May through to Sunday the 17th of May. So our festival hub and all the activity will happen within that time frame. You can chat to us. Obviously today is an opportunity to have a bit of Q&A afterwards. We've also got contact details at the end of the slide pack, so you can email us, call us, and reach out via social media if you wish as well. And fill out an EOI form. So some of you might have already had a look. There are 2 expressions of interest forms this year. So we'll run through what those look like and what they're all about. And if your expressions of interest is successful, obviously the team, along with some others at City of Melbourne, will review the submissions. And if you are successful in getting through to the next stage, we will organise an in-person meeting with you to sort of lock down the nitty-gritty and the details before we lock it into the program. So here's some criteria to keep in mind when you are submitting your expressions of interest. So we need to know as much info as you can. I know the festival is next year and it seems like a long way away, but if you can try and give us as much detail at this stage, it'll really help your case. So who's there, who's speaking, who's involved, when is it, where is it being hosted, and what is it? Is it an event? Is it a workshop? Is it a panel? Is it an activation or an exhibit? We're obviously really keen to look at events that support, connecting people, places, research, and technology that help spark conversations about what our city looks like in the future. Participation, engaging sessions are great, not just having sort of, me talking out at you as a keynote, but maybe thinking about other ways that we can have engagement in your activation. We want to empower audience members to prepare for and contribute to the future of our city. We're going to talk a bit more in detail about these 2 points, but we really want to make sure that Melbourne Knowledge Week is accessible and inclusive to as many people in the community as possible. We have a preference to programming which is culturally diverse, gender diverse, and held in accessible venues. And financial accessibility plays into that as well. We had 81% of our events this year were free. So we really try and make sure that we can make things free. Obviously, that's not always the case, but we will work with you to see how we can make it as accessible as we can. We've got a sustainability tracking that we do, carbon tracking. So obviously, we really want you to think sustainably when planning your event. We'll talk to that a bit more soon. Make your event shareable. Is there a live stream? Is there a hashtag? Is there a way to sort of connect and share the moments with people that are outside the room or the space that you're in? We'd like your EOI to be clear in its intent and really bring value to our audience. What is your unique point of difference? What are you going to bring to the festival that no one else is going to? And make it easy. Make it easy for us to go, this is an awesome idea. So by all means, when you go through the forms, you'll probably come across some different things you want to say about it and communicate your idea. But yeah, as long as you can try your best to put as much information in there that can help us assess, that'd be awesome. I will now hand over to Crystal, our hub manager, who will talk a little bit more about exhibiting in the hub space and the expressions of interest.
Hello everyone, it's so exciting to see so many faces in the room. This is truly an exciting time to be part of MKW. I personally have been a part of the festival for, this will be my 4th year, and I've seen it grow from not having, a very small hub at the State Library, very small room, to having its own destination hub, which is, we've made our home at Melbourne Meat Market, which is in North Melbourne. Did anyone come down last year? Show of hands, yes, I saw you. So last year, sorry, I saw you there. I lived there. So it's we've gone from strength to strength. Last year was the first year we actually shut down Blackwood Street, which made it have that whole real festival experience that you're walking into something special. And I can tell you as an event producer, once you shut down a road, you've nailed it. So, and it's not easy working for the City of Melbourne, it's just as hard. So because we now have Prototype Street and we have the meat market, we require exhibitors to be in those spaces as well. So this year we've added the second form for exhibitors, which I will bring up, but it's pretty easy to know what an event is. I think everyone here knows what's required of an event, but as an exhibitor we do have a further more demands of that. We require you to be active in the space during the times that the hub is open. So our opening hours are roughly 10 till 10, which can, or 10 to 9 depending on the day. But there's always, what we've found and what we definitely, I think, nailed last year was the vibe in the evening. There was a lot of engagement with the exhibitors before and after events. So that's what we're doing when we're trying to curate the hub, is trying to have a constant flow of activity so people are there engaging and moving around the space and just really enjoying it. So last year, for me, we having it be the second time. So second time, great. So this is Prototype Street. One of our exhibitors, we worked with Melbourne University. They had a Prototype Street bus, not prototypes, an autonomous bus, which means no driver. And that was pretty fun. They did a whole demo where someone would stand out in front of the bus and the bus would stop, thank God. We also had RACV, which they did their tiny houses, and yes, it was quite small in there. So, there's all levels of engagement that you can have with the exhibitors. So they can just be a vibe, they can just be a viewing thing, they can be an engagement thing. I'll bring up just go to those slides. Yeah. Okay. This is our hub floor plan from last year. So as you can see, there was a lot going on in the space. Not all those things are active at the same time, but definitely during our peak times, which is after the main floor is open. Cushion seatings, we built massive cushions. And we've all got a cafe, so we're offering food, beverage, and they're all, worked into the program. So we don't have I won't do the, okay. That's okay, I don't need a slide. As I mentioned, if you're thinking, well, I don't know if I want it to be an exhibition or I don't know if I want it to be an event, don't let the form stop you. And I think that's my advice across everything, is don't let the form stop your idea, because that's what we're there to do. We're there to draw out what you want the event to be, how we think it'll best work and how we can best market it. So if you are thinking, oh, but I want to do both, do both. Put as many EOIs in as you want, but just get it in. And so that's the first thing, must do it online. So we're only accepting EOIs through an online form, which everyone has the link to. If you do have any problems, please contact us at Knowledge Melbourne, and we'll be able to help you with that. It's really exciting, get involved, and I just love the festival. Here are some tips from Georgia.
Back to me, everyone. Sorry that we can bring up the forms, but it's sort of a form. It looks similar to any other form you would have seen in the past. And as Crystal mentioned, you're very welcome to get in touch with us after this session. If you do take a look at the application form, then you have some questions. So these are just some tips for your expression of interest. Some of them are pretty common sense, but it's just good to be explicit about it. we find that it's best to start by gathering as much information as you can. So as we've said, being here in the first place is a great first step, and then everything that you can sort of find and read online will give you more detail about previous festivals and about what we're looking for this year. And if there's anything that you still have left to ask after going through that, you're very welcome to get in touch. We love to hear from you and answer your questions about your expressions of interest. In terms of what we're looking for, Emma already went through the criteria, but a little bit extra on top of that. We really like to see applications that have something to do with the City of Melbourne's plans and goals. That's definitely not essential, and I'd say probably less than half of our events last year did this, so it's just sort of like a nice to have if you do have it. But it can, if you think that you might be doing something that's relevant specifically to council, it might be worth jumping online, taking a look at council's plans and goals and seeing if you can sort of draw the link there for us to make it that bit easier to say yes. We love events that are really memorable, that thing that really pops and stands out and delivers really, as Kate was saying before, really specific content in a really exciting way. So, you know, sustainability, for example, is a really big theme, but what if we're looking at exactly how to use like worm farms to do this specific thing? Like, that specificity is really nice. We really like things that bring challenging, rigorous and vital conversations to the city. So as we said before, whilst we are interested in positivity, that doesn't mean shying away from the big conversations, and we're really willing to go there. And again, on that point of legacy, we like to see events where we can see what the outcomes are out of this event and how you're going to continue that conversation or that piece of work beyond the festival, or maybe your contribution to the festival is the culmination of a piece of work that has already begun. And there are some links here. As we've mentioned a few times, these slides will be sent around, and if you're watching on the Zoom or on YouTube, these links will be in the comments section or the description section below. But these are some links just to last year's program, and then some council plans and goals and things like that, just for the point that I was making earlier about how to see if your event might have some linkage to council. Carbon tracking. I'm going to ask Kate up, but we do also have Natalie here. Natalie, would you mind coming up and telling us a little bit about the carbon tracking process with Kate?
Hi everybody, we're really pleased from the sustainability integration environmental side of things to be welcomed into this Melbourne Knowledge Week project team so very openly. They're extremely keen to make the event as sustainable as possible and to reduce the environmental impact of any events we do in the city, and in particular, whilst this is growing, we're really excited to help have everybody on board with this. So you don't have to panic, hopefully. The main thing is just at the moment to give you an idea of the sort of data we'll be collecting, and that's so that we can report to a government agency that will assure us and make sure that we are collecting our emissions properly. So it's going to be things like electricity use, waste, construction, the basic sort of things that you would imagine. And what we're doing is, first of all, getting an idea of what the emissions will be from the entire event, and then also, with the help of you, any step of the way, reduction opportunities. And from me sort of sneaking things in, if there's any sort of sustainable stuff that you want to put into your EOI, I'll be excited to see them, and I know the team's really excited about that too.
Yes, I think the most important thing is to just think about how you can reduce your carbon emissions when planning your event from this very early stage, and then to keep track of any that aren't essential to producing your event, saying having the lights on or any food and drink that you might be having, and just record that down and then provide it back to us, and we will go through the carbon offsetting system on your behalf. Yeah, great. So the next thing we'd like to talk about is accessibility requirements. We've got a resource here for you, which is a very comprehensive accessibility checklist for any event that you might be running. It's just a really good way to start thinking about how to make your event more accessible, just from the language that you're using, the venues that you're using, the types of people that you're engaging to provide all of your services for your event. Obviously, with such a comprehensive list, you might not be able to tick off everything, but it's really important that you think about how many that you can, and if there's any big ones that you'd like to communicate to your audience that you're not able to, I think that's a really good way of just letting people know that you're thinking about allowing them access, and providing contact details so somebody can get in contact and just ask you, you know, exactly what their requirements might be. So I think most of you would be familiar with ramps and accessible toilets and emergency exits, but yeah, there's a resource there for you to think a little bit more deeply about that. And then diversity requirements. It's one of the most important things about our festival is allowing people to access knowledge and share their own knowledge as well. So we can't do that unless everyone's invited to the party. So yeah, just having a look at our demographics and just thinking about how you might be able to include some more people just from beyond your own networks and your own experience. Because Melbourne is a very diverse place, and the most democratic approach to these events is to allow everybody in. So I think the most important question there is, how does your event affect our community and Melbourne as a whole? And I will pass to Jen with next steps after this.
Yes. Terrific. So, nearly there. This is what the next, 11 months, 10 months, can't count that high. This is what comes next. So obviously we're in the EOI process at the moment. They will close on the 20th of September. And all of these, by the way, are on the Melbourne Knowledge Week page on the City of Melbourne website as well. So what happens next is we will review the expressions of interest, and then there's we've added a step in this year where we'll long list from the initial EOI list and then have in-person meetings with potential event partners to really explore, as Emma said, the nitty-gritty of what the event is going to look like, and then we'll shortlist and notify the successful applicants. And then, we'll exchange letters of agreement, and then by December we really need to kick off the marketing and communications process. It takes quite a while. We build essentially a new website each time, and with 120 events, that's a lot of copy and images and assets to wrangle. So the sooner we get going on that, the better. In February we have another morning tea and information session which will cover in more detail some of the topics that we've looked at here, and really just a great chance to touch base in person and with other presenters before we launch the program officially, which at the moment we're looking at the week commencing the 25th of March, which would be the public launch, and then the event itself is on. And then the final, very important, very easy to forget bit is the reporting, where I had a project management teacher at university who was always like, there are 4 stages to every event and everyone always forgets the reporting stage. So that's about the only thing I remember from that class, but it is it's very easy to get to the end of the event and go, oh, that's it, I'm done. Whereas for us, we have a very substantial reporting and impact measurement process that we need to go through, including the carbon reporting, but also advocating to Council and to the City of Melbourne for what we've achieved with Knowledge Week this year. Not only so we can tell the community about it, but we are government. We're accountable to the community. We're here to service the community, so we want to be able to do that with as much information as possible. If you have any questions, Georgia is the primary contact, but of course you now know who all of us are, except for Blair. And please feel free to get in touch. We have the Knowledge Melbourne. Some of you might have seen it was previously Knowledge Melbourne at Melbourne, which we've streamlined down a little bit. And that's really it for the overview session. So I think we will now kick into questions. Great. Hi. Yep.
If we've got equipment for the event that has to stay there for the week, is that insured? Do you take the cost of insurance?
We do have, so everything that's held in the meat market, we do have securities and it's a locked space. Anything that you do bring into the space would be under your own insurance. If you do have something extra special, we do have locked doors that we can possibly put it behind if that's necessary. So
my name is Ali. I'm wondering, is there any funding from the City of Melbourne to put on events? I know
Georgia,
it's
would you like to answer this one?
Sure.
The answer is potentially yes, but Georgia can
Yes,
answer in more
sure.
detail.
Yeah, so we have some funding available. It's all to do with what resources you have and then what would sort of support you to then deliver the event. And we sort of have a range of different arrangements with different partners depending on whether they're presenting something that's already part of, say, some research that they're doing or a program that they're doing and they've got their own budget for it. But we would hate for lack of resourcing to be the reason why an event didn't go ahead. So please do get in touch and let us know if you would need support in that way.
And then on that tangent, if you could bring in a private sponsor, I'm assuming there'd be some City of Melbourne parameters around who that could be.
Yep. Probably what I would say about that is that we seek our own sponsorships for the festival as a whole. So the main thing about your sponsor would just be that there's no conflict between like that sponsor and then the festival sponsors. And then beyond that, there'd be some like obvious no-nos. So like anyone in sort of petroculture, arms manufacturing, etc. would be like a flag. But yeah, I think there's a field on the EOI form about any confirmed or not confirmed sponsorships that you're seeking or that you already have.
Thank you.
Excellent. Hi.
Hi. So you mentioned about the carbon emissions measurement. So seeing that it's an event, it's a venue that we go into. If we're talking about, say, a talk or a workshop, apart from what we're bringing, how would we measure that or?
Great question. So if the event happens within the hub,
Sorry, anything that's about, unless it's construction waste, etc., or when you're creating something, if you're using a generator, anything in the hub, waste or electricity, we will collect ourselves. So it's outside of the hub or what you bring in.
Yeah.
It doesn't go out here.
Something that we potentially have missed in our presentation is that whilst we do have the hub and whilst that's the focal point of the festival, it's there are events that happen outside of the hub as well. And if for example your business or your university or whatever has a venue and you'd like to use that venue, that's fine. And if you'd like to hire a venue outside of the hub, that's also fine. And so what Natalie's saying there is if you're in our hub, we'll collect those things around lighting and so on. And if you're in your own venue, you'll then have to work with that venue to collect that data. And we do provide a template for that collection as well, we should say. In terms of recording that, we provide a really clear template that just breaks down what information we specifically need to collect.
and the reason we're putting so much emphasis on the carbon emissions in particular is because this year was the first time we were officially certified by the National Carbon Offset Standard body as a carbon neutral event. Is that the right? Yes. Which requires a lot of tracking and measurement. So that's obviously something that we want to continue. That's a mark of a lot of the premier events here at City of Melbourne.
Sorry, just on that front, it's also not just about being aware of how much we're using, but then identifying opportunities to reduce.
Yeah.
And so that's really important to
Question?
Yeah, the question, if we are exhibiting, let's say, products, can we sell products there? Or is it more like a demonstration piece?
Yeah, good question. We've
Yeah,
never had that before.
We generally not. In the past we haven't. That's not to say that we couldn't. We have had people sell stuff after the fact, but it's not sort of like an exhibitor hall sort of vibe. So we do, and maybe this is something that I didn't cover, but we do try and keep everything very mainstreamed, which is MKW branding, working with Melbourne University. So there are no pull-up banners in the hub, but we do work with signage.
Yeah.
But yeah, not generally selling stuff.
It would need to be done on a case-by-case basis, and we'd need to find workarounds, because the thing that brings people to Knowledge Week is an exchange of ideas. And if we start going down the sort of trade show route, it fundamentally changes the experience. So, however, we do appreciate, obviously, people are running businesses. So, yeah, it's, as Crystal said, don't let that stand in the way of a good idea, and that's something that we would look to talk through as a team and maybe find some workarounds.
I think just to add to that, the concept is in the prototype street that we mentioned to you all as well, sort of a place to kind of showcase cool technology and new emerging sort of products and services as well. So I guess there is opportunity to have space where you're showing something that's interactive and interesting and starts a conversation, but yeah, I guess it's case by case around how brand is part of it.
Yeah.
Alongside the knowledge week brand.
Yeah, everything's up for discussion, except arms manufacturing. It's not an official City of Melbourne stance, I don't think, by the way. I think that's us. Hi.
A couple of questions. Can one put in multiple expressions of interest?
Absolutely.
And if one is out of the country in October, do you have a workaround if one gets to the second stage?
Of course.
Shortlist?
Yep.
And my third question is, do you handle the ticketing for people who are participating?
Yeah. Yes. This is another one we didn't put in. So we need a centralised ticketing point for all events because Knowledge Week is the platform and we are the overall event deliverer. And in our experience, to have people going off to 51 different ticketing sites is a nightmare, frankly. So we centralise all of that. That is a service that we supply. We have used various suppliers for that in the past. And I can't tell you who the supplier will be next year because we haven't quite figured that out yet. But the short version is that's a service that we provide to you, so that you will still have it. You'll have like what's called producer access, and it will be a different provider from this year. And you'll be able to log on. If people have signed up to receive communications from you, you'll be able to access that data so that you can build your communications and marketing list. You'll be able to manage your door lists and all of that. But also we have, close to the event, we bring on a ticketing person who is there just to help you guys manage that because we recognise that people have different levels of expertise in ticketing.
Can I ask a question based on that?
Yeah.
Are these restricted to what kinds of questions we can ask in terms of registration details? We're from the University of Melbourne, so one of the things that we like to find out is, are you a student, a staff member, or are you an alumni university?
Yeah.
Are you able to get that information?
In theory, yes, because we capture everything from dietary requirements for dinners to reminding people to bring their own jars to pickling workshops. So, it can be quite flexible. Yeah. We always have to be slightly careful with the type of data that we're collecting in terms of privacy and data governance. But again, there are always workarounds. Yeah. Hi.
Hi, my name is Marina. I have a question regarding the venue. So our current venue doesn't meet the accessibility requirements. So does it mean that we need to seek for another venue and cannot be a part of the Knowledge Week?
It's a great question. Look, it's more a matter of we need to know so that we can communicate that. The worst scenario is that someone with an accessibility requirement turns up to a venue and finds out then and there that they can't get in for whatever reason. Whereas if we can communicate that beforehand, depending on the extent of the, we understand that not every venue is completely accessible. So it's more about expectations management and communication. Is that fair? Yes. So I think on one of the earlier slides we worked with 51 different venues, external venues, as well as the Harbour and College Street last year. So they're in a range of locations. So again, it's just it's part of running a diverse program. So yeah, don't let that stand in the way. Yeah.
Sorry, a few questions. How many exhibitors do you expect to have?
We didn't put a number on it. Crystal?
We don't.
Yeah.
It's grown every year, so we've gone from 3 to 10 to 15. So it really depends on what those exhibitors require and how much space they take up. And then we sort of build it out from there. So it really depends on what comes in and what we fill the space with as well. So
I guess on a related note, then, do you accept like joint submissions?
yeah, of course, yeah. I'll accept any submission.
There's the inside exhibit space and there's prototype street, which is outdoor as well.
Right. Another question?
Yeah, this is a question regarding your sponsors. Are they firmed up?
No.
Releasing that?
No.
Because I guess that question is, is it too late to collaborate with key sponsors at this late stage? If we had an idea to collaborate with them, or do they already have ideas
No, so we're growing our sponsorship portfolio. So, for example, this year our corporate partners were University of Melbourne, RACV, and LCI Melbourne, which is a private design college, as well as oMedia, which is an advertising company. So it's very high level and it's very broad, and we don't expect event partners to be servicing our sponsors in the same way that we're not here to service your sponsors. But we do acknowledge that a lot of people bring support in from a lot of different places. So there is scope, particularly on the website, to do the standard logo acknowledgement, etc. And then when we are recruiting our overall sponsors, they are also of the understanding that individual event partners will have their sponsors as well. So unless you've got, DHL and Toll, that might be a little bit of an issue. But again, it's just about having an open dialogue about who you're talking to. So yes, absolutely, joint submissions we welcome. And then if there is a conflict, we just again manage that as it arises, if it arises. Yes. Hi.
Just wanted to query about suggesting events such as panel discussions and things. I haven't actually looked at the EOI, so I don't know if there's an option to tick a different box, but can you suggest a different type of format of how that conversation might take place?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Were you about to say no?
No, I just said absolutely exactly the same
Oh,
thing.
great. Perfect. Absolutely. Yeah, we have a number of different checkboxes of all different kinds of events like panel, workshop, exhibition, experience, etc. And there's another field as well. So you can write whatever you want in the other field.
And in terms of the speakers, do you have a preference for more localised knowledge, or can you bring people in from outside? And if so, how do we kind of cover the cost for that type of thing?
It's all case by case. I mean, we are a festival in Melbourne for Melburnians, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all the content for the festival has to come from Melbourne. We are an international city, etc., etc. In terms of bringing people in from outside and then covering costs and so on, just remember the thing about carbon reductions and how much that's going to be to fly someone, and then also in terms of the costs of getting here. I think that's just case by case basis. If it was someone that we felt could also sort of be used across the program in other events, we might be able to chip in. If they're just coming in for your event, it'll probably be more your responsibility to get them here. Yeah.
Also with panel events, just a good idea is to write who you're reaching out to, so they don't have to be locked in. Just like if you have an idea, this is my ideal panel, these are the people that I'm thinking about reaching out to, it gives us so much better idea of how the event might run on there.
Yeah, that was my other question. Being so far away, trying to kind of work out what the themes would be, and that'd be the idea.
Yeah, and we understand that could be aspirational, but if we see like a list of, I'm going to get Charlie Pickering and Waleed Ali and Dr. Carl and, and I'm going to deliver my event for, $200, that's the sort of thing we might drill down a little bit into. But if you're like, I'm going to get someone who's a subject matter expert in this field, and this is the indicative speak that I'm thinking of, that's really great for us. And one thing I should also stress is, well, two things, that there are a couple of things we are not. One is we are not a grant agency, so yes, there is funding available, but it's not grant funding in the way that other areas of council offer, where you write a submission and there's an it's essentially still our budget, but we enter into a partnership with the event partner to deliver that agreed event. So it's not like we have a whole separate funding stream like the business or community grants do. If you are looking for those sorts of grants, go to the City of Melbourne webpage and see what funding opportunities are available, because there are other funding opportunities available through different branches with different timelines. The other thing we are not is a full service marketing agency. So we do we market Knowledge Week as a whole, and we work with a very substantial marketing team here at City of Melbourne, and we also have an external PR agency who optimises media opportunities. Those of you who've worked with media know there's absolutely no guarantee about what the outcomes will be. You can get stories that are pitched, the interviews are placed, story never runs. you end up running your Knowledge Week in the middle of a federal election like we did this year. You know, stuff happens in news cycles. So while we always look for every single opportunity we can to showcase the breadth of Knowledge Week, in the past there's sort of been maybe an expectation that we're here to completely market an event. The outcomes that work the best are when everybody involved does everything they can to market it through their own channels. It's really, that's a very cooperative approach. So, you know, and if you're unsure about marketing and it's something you'd like to learn about, we obviously have resources here that we can help support you to put a marketing plan together and leverage your social media, etc. But yeah, so they're two things that we are not. We are many things, but there are some things that we are not as well. More questions?
Sorry, just on
Yeah.
that one. You know, in terms of the marketing, so for example, if I have marketing activity, I imagine there'd be some assets and some brand management that would come over the top of that. So if there's any system that you guys can provide some material for role in branding.
Yeah. So we provide an event partner pack which has exactly that, a range of broad sort of hero assets that are to a certain degree customisable as well. And they're fairly generic, but if there's a specific requirement, you know, with enough notice, we can look at working something up. Yeah. They're particularly geared to social media these days, funnily enough. Yeah.
A question about, you mentioned that all the ticketing will be here through your platform, but if we have our website, it means we cannot put that event on our website and sell the tickets from our website as well?
Yeah, so you can still put the event on your website, but the ticketing link would have to go through to our centralised ticketing provider. But
so you would be able to take the link and then hyperlink it to, so buy tickets to this event here, and then once you click that, it would then drive it to the ticketing event. What ticketing platform do you?
Well, I'm from academic side, so we have our own events page, and all the tickets are sold by the website. So I guess we need to ask our dev team to
work it around, yeah.
Yeah, that's a conversation we can have. I mean, one of the other things that we're able to do through the centralised ticketing platform is, you know, send event reminders. If there's any changes to events, we can communicate them. So we find that if there's tickets consigned to third parties, that can sometimes fall out of the loop, and that results in a poor customer experience. So that's the reason that we try and keep it all centralised if we can. But, you know, again, open for discussion. Yeah.
Hi, one other question on ticketing. Are we, firstly, do we have access to email sign-ups?
Yes, if people have ticked the box saying, yes, I'm happy to be contacted, then absolutely.
Okay, and in that, like, it's possible to have $0 tickets? Or
of course, yeah, 80% of our program is free, so.
But you always have people to sign up via those?
So we encourage event registrations in advance. It helps us manage numbers really well.
Might be obvious, but there's no fee associated with participating or an exhibit or anything.
No, this is the right answer. Yep.
Just on the free tickets, have you kept stats on the kind of the numbers of people who book things and don't show?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Can you tell us anything about that?
Well, we find that the drop-off rate is around 50%, and that's not unusual for free events. And depending on the capacity, we will sometimes open an event out, say it's a 40-seat venue, we might open it out to 80 bookings, and then in consultation with the event partner, we might open it further. We had a really big event called Mind the Hype last year, which was a meditation event, which was just like hottest ticket in town. We moved to a bigger venue. We moved from a 400-seat venue to a 600 or 700-seat venue. We had 1,200 registrations, 300 people turned up. So even with us sending event reminders and saying this is a sold out event, please confirm your attendance, it's still, unfortunately, the nature of free events is that you do get a bit of drop off. So.
It's to have to do with audience as well, and you'll know your audience. Like we know that our sort of Melbourne Knowledge Week audience across the board, it's roughly a 50% drop off, but then different, you know, when we talk to different organisations on events, they see that it's sort of more or less than that. So we say that 50% is kind of the minimum sort of double booking that we want to have. But if you know in your organisation that you frequently run events and you get sort of 30% of people turning up, we're happy to go past that 50% as well, because the important thing for us is that you've got a number of people there that you're happy with and they get the experience that you're wanting them to have. Thanks.
I think also that Mind the Hype event might have been on the same night as the finale of Game of Thrones. Might have had something to do with it. Yeah. Right. More questions? No. Well, if you walk away and think, oh, I should have answered that, you know where we are. We have your email addresses now. So we'll be sending through a copy of the presentation to you later. It's got contact details in there. Please feel free to get in contact with us. Thank you all for coming along, and we're really looking forward to seeing everybody's ideas. And no question is too small. So if you come across anything, then just hit us up. It's what we're here for. So thank you.